All right, so hi everyone. My name's Dan Herbener. I work as a client experience analyst for Benesch Law. We're a full-size business law firm, about 350 attorneys, about 150 staff, so 500-ish total. I started in CX in this role in January of 22 without any prior CX training whatsoever, but was lucky enough to join a firm that had been doing client assessments and had a built-out client assessment program since 2005. So today I'm going to walk through what our client assessment program is, some of the challenges we've faced, and then talk about how we've optimized CX using our client assessments. So I kind of just went through this. I also noticed nobody's really using an agenda, but I'm uptight and organized, so I have one. So our client assessment program at Benesch is this ongoing process of interviews with clients. I'm sure a lot of you guys do this as well, but it's a steady stream of interviews that we do throughout the year. So we don't have time set away, say at the end of the year when we want to talk to 10 or 25 of our top clients and get feedback and see how things are going. We want a good cross-section of clients. Certainly we want to talk to some of the high fee earners, see where they might have pain points, but we also want to talk to clients that maybe have fallen off a little bit, maybe they're at a certain point in a relationship where we've had, like a fixed fee or something like that, and we just want to see how things are going. These interviews are conducted completely by Benesch employees, so we have a list of senior management, a list of senior marketing and business development team members, and then also attorneys as well that are actually able to talk to clients, because as some of you know, some attorneys are not very good at talking to just people in general, but we have a good list built out. These are some of the questions that we ask, or we have a list of questions for as a guide for our attorneys and for the senior management conducting the assessments. But as I'm sure a lot of you know, a really good client assessment doesn't get much further past the how are we doing question. Once you get to give a client the opportunity to talk about themselves, talk about their business, and touch on any of these pain points and how things are going, that'll generally cover things. So, I mean, we probably don't end up asking more than 2 or 3 of these questions maximum throughout our client assessments. Some of the challenges that we've had throughout our program include, of course, buy-in from attorneys. As you see Randy Jackson telling you that that's going to be a no from him, a lot of times it ends up being more like Simon Cowell than Randy Jackson, because attorneys don't want us to talk to their clients. They think that nobody knows their clients as well as they do, and we won't gain any insight from talking to them because they know everything already, which dovetails nicely into that next point, which is building a consistent pipeline of clients. Certainly, it's nice to have a few attorneys that you can constantly reach out to, and you know that they're going to have clients that they want you to talk to. They've seen successes from these conversations, but it's those sort of harder eggs to crack that we've had issues with, building, because we want this process to be constant and we want, the steady stream throughout the year. The other part is building a strong bench of assessors. Right now, we have about 10, which was growing from about 4 to 5 just a year ago after we had a training, which I'll get into later. 350 attorneys to 4 or 5 client assessors, if you're trying to do this all year, it's not going to work. A lot of people have jam-packed schedules. And then finally is the follow-up and tracking on action items. The way that this worked for a long time was our chief marketing officer would send a note to the attorney whose client was assessed. It would be a list of bullet point action items, and 99% of the time they would just say yep or done, and that was it. And then we would talk to a client down the road again and find out the same issues existed. So certainly a challenge to make sure that we're doing what we said we're going to be doing. So how do we overcome some of these challenges? Building buy-in. You guys know this, work with the willing. I mean, certainly there's going to be people who you're just never going to be able to work with, who don't want you to talk to their clients. Luckily for us, our managing partner is a big fan of the marketing and business development function, and he lets us talk to his clients, which are some of the bigger clients at the firm, and work with a lot of different practice groups, so we get that perspective of working with different attorneys. The other part is just our consistent communication of the successes that we've had from client assessments. I feel like it's every other week we're creating some sort of communication, whether it's marketing collateral, whether it's a presentation, just like a slide, me going into attorneys' offices and grabbing them by the lapels and telling them that they should have us assess their clients because they need to know how things are going. we're constantly letting people know that this is a super valuable program because it is. Building our pipeline of clients, there's just one point I want to call out here, and it's our new client onboarding process. For the longest time, when an attorney or when a client joined the firm, signed an engagement letter, they would get a new client onboarding form from us, which was just talked a little bit about their preferences, communication preferences, do they want to receive newsletters, email or phone call. But at the bottom, there was a little checkbox that said, do you want to schedule a client assessment? Right? So when they would check it, that would get sent off to the attorney, and then that form would get forgotten about. So that was just gone into the ether. So we had this pool of clients that were telling us that they wanted to give us feedback that we were just not taking advantage of. Luckily, that's now fixed. We have an intranet site where when a client says that they want an assessment, it pings me. I calendar a little tickler about a couple months out and reach out to the attorney and say, hey, you better reach out with an assessment request letter because this client said that they want to do an assessment. Talking about this bench of assessors, I'll go through this quickly. We built this up. There was about 4 or 5 of assessors firm-wide for 350 attorneys, not a tenable situation. So what we did was we built out a list of senior management and strong business development attorneys, people who we thought, like I said, could actually talk to clients. We had a full day training session where we went through coaching on communication styles, how to actually talk to people. And then at the end of it, we had a mock client interview where the attorney and senior management actually went through a mock client assessment. It was actually really uncomfortable because there was like 4 or 5 of us on the BD team sitting at one end of the table and then the mock interview going on at the other end of the table, and we were just staring at them. So I can't imagine that was comfortable for them, but we've built out our bench further and client assessments are going great. And then this last piece on the challenges is tracking our feedback. We had our IT department build out a platform on our firm's intranet site, which houses all of our client assessment data at this point. It's not perfect, but it's a heck of a lot better than an Excel spreadsheet. Helps us integrate with Power BI where we can pull big, pretty pictures for our firm management to look at. And also it helps us track trends across the firm, especially with things like legal goals. Like if we see things in certain practice areas and industries where clients are calling out the same things that they're looking towards for the future, those are things that we can communicate to our attorneys to give them a heads up that things might be coming down the road. So looking at some of the successes, just to give you a few examples of what we've done, I made a baseball metaphor. I'm sorry, I'm very unoriginal, but this would be what we considered a home run, no-brainer client assessment success that needs to be communicated out to the firm. A large client needed data security and privacy work. No-brainer, just mentioned it very casually. Oh, we do that. So we told them that we can handle that work for them, sent over a proposal, won the work, right? These are a little bit more on the sort of CX side, small details. This one I call a double. I would have used triple, but I was heavy when I used to play baseball, so I didn't hit triples. So we had a few clients that told us throughout these assessments that the timing of communication that they were receiving was unsatisfactory. Some people wanted to read their emails at night. Some people wanted to read them in the morning. So after we had heard that for a few times, we added this question to our client onboarding form. Probably should have been there in the first place, but this is just an example of how building up that data from clients and having a good way to visualize what are certain categories that maybe are pain points across the firm can impact one of our internal processes. These last two are what I call singles. They're sort of smaller, but they're my favorites because, for example, this one, very positive assessment with a client, loved working with our firm, just had one issue that he mentioned at the end of the call, and it was legal advice is being sent on email chains that are double-digit emails deep. And the client didn't want to be scrolling through emails to catch legal advice, time and time again. Something that's super simple, easy fix, but we never would have known that if we wouldn't have asked the client. So it's an easy win, all legal advice. I mean, certainly there's other documents and such, but all the advice now is sent in a PDF format. The client's thrilled with it. Easy win, but again, We wouldn't have known that had we not asked. And then this one made me laugh when I read it in the notes, but a client mentioned again at the end of an assessment, didn't get invited to an event. And his feelings were hurt that he didn't get invited to an event. And it's not something that we had done intentionally, but things happen, and now that client will go to the event every single year. I think he had a couple buddies there that he wanted to hang out with, probably heard about it and had his feelings hurt. And for him to also be that open with us and vulnerable in that situation, I think shows that shows that the relationship was worth salvaging to him, for him to say something to us, because then we can rectify the situation moving forward, which is what happened. These are just some additional ways that I listed that we've added value. Obviously, service and process improvement, internally and externally. You gotta love when you have those internal process improvements from constant feedback that you're receiving from your clients. The only other one that I wanted to point out here was relationship building outside of the billable hour. We hear that a lot. I mean, there's certainly clients that they just want to receive their legal work and then go away. That's it. But there's also a lot of clients that like the high touch. They like going to outings. They like getting to know their attorneys. I mean, I think everybody in here would agree that you like to work with people that you like, certainly. So anytime that we can take their feedback and translate that into a deeper, broader relationship with our clients, maybe even outside of what we're actually billing them, it's been super positive for revenue growth and for client experience. And then finally, just some other ways that we're planning on expanding our assessment program into the future. I'll be talking to you, Ryan, in a couple weeks about our quarterly feedback surveys. We got our baseline done in 2021, and now we want to start to pick up talking to some more of our clients that we have some feedback to benchmark against. Building out end of matter assessments and mid-matter check-ins. The client assessment's more sort of like a relationship check-in. This is more of like a project check-in to see how things are going. And then finally, these last two are aspirational, but I'll put them up there. It's the pitch and proposal opportunities, assessments at the end of those, and also lost client interviews. So why did you not pick us, or why did you leave us? But I don't know if I'll ever get those done, but I'm always gonna keep them on the list. So that's it for me. If anybody has any questions.
I was just curious, do you go back to either the group, all the clients as a whole, or individually say, here's what we heard in our recent surveys, and here are 3 things that we're doing to respond to your feedback, which also shows other people that you're responding, so maybe they're willing to then give feedback.
Right, so we haven't done it on like a wider level to like all of our clients, but when we have assessments and we will fix things on our end, most of the time the client notices that things are different, but it's also communicated directly to the client that we're gonna go and rectify whatever issue exists. So yeah, it's not necessarily this big group, but it's more of that one-on-one client specific. Yeah, that's still, have you made progress overcoming the challenge of tracking the follow-up? Tracking the follow-up's not too bad now that we have sort of a repository that's not an Excel spreadsheet. It's the action items that are difficult because we can only do so much to actually get attorneys to do things. I mean, it's nice now that we have this SharePoint site where we can at least see like what action items are open, because before we were just looking at the Excel sheet and looking back through emails and trying to tie what's actually been done. So we can close things out now, but I think that's always going to be a challenge to actually make attorneys do the things that they say they're going to do. Those that do them see the positive outcomes that come from them, but what are you going to do?
Well, thank you very much, Dan.
Sure.